that conventional wisdom is almost always wrong. Now, conventional wisdom today is that the U.S. economy is very strong. I think your view is that might not be accurate. Is that correct? You don't think it's that strong?
Well, I think it's a different, what we call stagflation. It had the characteristics of buoyancy, but underneath it is an erosion which ultimately will disable the economy unless it's corrected.
Do you see any movement to solve, say, the deficit and debt problem?
I see a lot of talk, but no realistic. Right now, we are creating a deficit of $1 trillion a year, and that is being added net to the stock of debt. And debt as a percent of GDP is rising very rapidly, and the demographics of the age groups are such is that that's going to accelerate in the immediate future.
So if you could wave a magic wand and help reduce this deficit and debt, what would you do?
Well, the question is, what's the cause of it? And the cause of it is essentially on both the expenditure and on the tax side. I actually fully approve of the tax cuts that were made, but only in the context that it is funded. In other words, we went to a very significant cut in the marginal corporate tax rate, but you can't have a tax cut without finding the revenues elsewhere, or you're going to have problems.
So the new tax cut bill that was passed in the first year of President Trump's administration by the Congress said, in effect, that we'll produce 3% or more growth for the foreseeable future. Do you think 3% annualized growth is realistic over the next 5 or 10 years?
No, certainly not as a consequence of the tax cut. The tax cut actually did get a buoyancy, and we're still feeling some of it, but it's nowhere near enough to offset the actual deficit. So there's no way around this without coming to grips with the expenditure side.
Okay, so President Trump called you up and said, Alan, you're a great former chairman of the Federal Reserve. I need some advice. I want to solve the Social Security problem and the Medicare, Medicaid problem. What would you tell him to do?
Go elsewhere.
Go elsewhere. Because you think it's too difficult politically?
I think politically we are caught in a terrible problem.
So let's talk about another issue that you've talked about, which is productivity. Your point is that we don't have the productivity that we should have, in part because we're borrowed so much money, and that's squeezing out the money that would be otherwise available for productivity increases.
Precisely. It's the capital investment which ultimately determines what productivity will be. In fact, our equations show that the net capital stock that's built up in business, plus some measures of educational efficiency. We're not doing it.
Coming up on Bloomberg Best, Alan Greenspan discusses how investors should prepare for the next recession. More of his conversation with David Rubenstein still to come. This is Bloomberg.
If you love them enough to listen to them practice the same song on tuba, please be down. Over and over and over and over and over. Then surely you'll check NHTSA.gov/the right seat to make sure they're correctly buckled in the back seat.
Sounds good, honey.
Check today at NHTSA.gov/the right seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Bloomberg Big Break Asia. I'm Brian. I'm Doug Krisner. We'll preview this weekend's APEC Summit.
And we look at trends in cybersecurity and data protection for 2019.
Tonight at 6 on Bloomberg 1130.
Bloomberg, the world is listening. The David Rubenstein Show, peer-to-peer conversations, is sponsored by Wells Fargo Technology Banking. Wells Fargo helps business leaders find their moments of truth. A little outside perspective can create a lot of clarity.
Carvana sells used cars exclusively online. It's also a Wells Fargo customer. Here's how founder and CEO Ernie Garcia remade the customer experience to show how the company is unique.
There's a lot of friction in the customer car buying experience, so we built a simpler and better way to buy a car. Early on, we were getting great customer reviews, but we were selling 10 cars per month, and that's a business model that doesn't work. So we needed to get our message out there. We were trying to figure it out, and our CMO said, why don't we create an actual car vending machine? When they come get the car, that'll be so exciting, the customers want to talk about it. It generated so much interest. We got a ton of media coverage. Sales multiplied by 10x over a 3 or 4 month period, and then we were really off and running. Delivering great customer experiences is a huge part of our success.
Wells Fargo Technology Banking, a little outside perspective, can create a lot of clarity. Find out more at wellsfargo.com/techbanking. Copyright 2018, Wells Fargo Bank N.A. All rights reserved.
The art and antiques world is constantly evolving. Trends come and go. Fashions change. But the one constant is the 18th century English furniture. Always in good taste, always in style. In business for 50 years in New York City, Hyde Park Antiques showcases the most extensive and finest inventory of pure 18th and early 19th century English furniture on either side of the Atlantic. Simply set foot in our 20,000 square foot gallery and you're transported to another time. Experience the excitement of truly genuine English antiques. Living with antiques brings a feeling of continuity with the graciousness of the past and the sense of assurance into the future. See our stunning collection at HydeParkAntiques.com or visit us at 836 Broadway between 12th and 13th Streets, 1 block south of Union Square. Hyde Park Antiques, where good taste never goes out of fashion.
The business of sports.
Hi, I'm Scott Dodson.
And I'm Michael Barr. He has a major role in one of the most historic universities in America.
We'll speak with the Director of Athletics at the University of Notre Dame, Jack.
Tomorrow night at 8 on Bloomberg 1130 and via podcast on iTunes.
Time now for Land Rover Drive Time traffic. Every 15 minutes, visit your local Tri-State area Land Rover retailer during the Season of Adventure sales event now through January 2nd. A very difficult ride across all of the areas right now. You've got New Jersey, a mess, especially the Garden State Parkway, several accidents and closures on 80. A complete closure in 2 spots on 280 by McCarter Highway and then up the hill by exit 7. You've got an hour and a half out of the Lincoln Tunnel and the Holland Tunnel. You've got the upper level of the George Washington Bridge headed out shut down. Accidents downstairs. If you're on the roads right now, it's going to take a long time before you get home. And if you're in your office, stay there and give them a chance to work on this, because never thought it was going to be like this tonight. In sports, Rangers visit the Islanders. Devils are in Pittsburgh. Bloomberg 11:30 3-day weather. Tonight, this is still snow right now and quite windy still. Lows in the 30s. Friday morning showers, high 50. Saturday, sun and clouds, 50. Sunday, partly cloudy, 45. In New York right now, it is snowing quite heavily. Whiteout conditions in parts of New Jersey. The temperature is 32 degrees. The support brought to you by Ray Catena Land Rover. Come in for great offers during the Land Rover Season of Adventure sales event at Land Rover Edison and the new Ray Catena dealership, Land Rover Marlboro. 32 degrees with snow and wind. With the best ride in and out of the city, I'm Ed Kalegi. This is Bloomberg 1130, bringing you global news 24 hours a day.
From Bloomberg World Headquarters, I'm Charlie Pallett. Applied Materials, the biggest maker of equipment used to manufacture semiconductors, a weak forecast that indicates the chip industry is holding off on expansion plans in the face of a murky outlook for electronics demand. Nordstrom shares plunging by about 10% after an earnings miss on gross margin. According to Bloomberg data, third quarter gross margin was 33.3%, but the estimate was for 34.2%. Nike raising its quarterly dividend by 10%. Stocks rally, a rebound for the S&P up 28, up 1.1%. Dow Industrials up 208 points, up 0.8%. NASDAQ up 122, up 1.7%. I'm Charlie Pallett. That's a Bloomberg Business Flash. Bloomberg Best with Ed Baxter continues.
From the Bloomberg Interactive Broker Studio, this is Bloomberg Best. And now we're going to get back to a conversation between David Rubenstein, co-founder of the Carlyle Group and host of Bloomberg television show Peer-to-Peer Conversations, and former Fed Chairman Alan Greenspan.
Now, Harry Truman, when he was listening to his economic advisors, said, please bring me a one-handed economist, because they always said, well, on the one hand this, on the other hand this, and he got tired of that. So let me ask you a direct question. Can you tell me when the next recession is going to happen? sometime. But we've had recessions every 7 years on average since World War II.
It's going to be driven by the fact that debt is rising dramatically. And there's going to be some curtailments occurring from that, and it's going to feed on itself. What I'm saying, we talk about stagflation. Stagflation is something that happened in the 1980s when you had a situation where both unemployment and inflation were high, something which the original Keynesian model said was not possible. And we're going into that type of period now, if you look at all the guidelines.
If you were worried that we're going to go into a recession at some point, you invest your money in a certain way to protect against that?
Well, you can't protect everything. And the point is you can't forecast very, very accurately. Right now, we've been at an extreme period of extremely low real long-term interest rates. And they're beginning now to move up, will continue to move up, and that is going to cause the basic turn in the market.
Are you worried about inflation right now?
I think I'm beginning to see the first signs of it. We're seeing it basically in the tightening of the labor markets first, which, as you know, are getting very tight now. We're beginning finally to see average wages rise, and clearly there's no productivity behind it. Our productivity increase in the last 10 years is averaged under 1% a year. It's a historic low. Not only, I might add, it's not only we, it's Europe and everybody else as well. You're getting into a system now which has no outcome that's in equilibrium other than inflation and low productivity growth.
What would you recommend that we do to solve the problems that you pointed out?
Well, the basic problem is fundamentally on the expenditure side, so that the issue is, I would say, 90% entitlements. Now, these are, as you know, basically legislated payments to certain groups, irrespective of what they're paying into funds. And we've overdone it. Now the question, obviously, is if we've overdone it, why don't we just pull it back? That is the economic conclusion. It is not a credible political conclusion.
Now, let me shift for a moment, if I could, to your own personal life and career. When you were a young boy, did you say, I want to be chairman of the Federal Reserve Board? No?
It's the last thing. I could barely pronounce the words at the time. My aspiration was to be a musician. So I went to Juilliard for a few years.
Your instrument was what?
I played clarinet. Class B because I sat next to a 15-year-old by the name of Stanley Guest when I was 16. We both... My God, this kid is terrific. And I said to myself,
received another boost with a funding promise from the Italian government. Syria Minister Matteo Salvini said if private funding isn't enough, we'll make the final push to cover the remaining costs. Salvini's announcement signals a shift after Luigi Di Maio said last month the government would send a letter of support for the bid to the National Olympic Committee, but as government, we won't provide €1, neither for direct nor indirect costs. Mark Cuban has gotten out of the high-frequency trading. The Dallas Mavericks owner told Bloomberg he recently sold his stake in Virtu Financial. The billionaire revealed earlier this year that he'd invested in Virtu. Cuban later explained that while he disliked high-frequency trading, Virtue protected against market calamities. That is a Bloomberg Business of Sports report. I'm Michael Barr.
The David Rubenstein Show, peer-to-peer conversation, is sponsored by Wells Fargo Technology Banking. Wells Fargo helps business leaders find their moments of truth. A little outside perspective can create a lot of clarity.
Carvana sells used cars exclusively online. It's also a Wells Fargo customer. Here's how founder and CEO Ernie Garcia remade the customer experience to show how the company is unique.
There's a lot of friction in the customer car buying experience, so we built a simpler
No.
car. Early on, we were getting great customer reviews, but we were selling 10 cars per month, and that's a business model that doesn't work. So we needed to get our message out there. We were trying to figure it out. And our CMO said, why don't we create an actual car vending machine? So when they come get the car, that'll be so exciting, the customers want to talk about it. It generated so much interest. We got a ton of media coverage. Sales multiplied by 10x over a 3 or 4 month period, and then we were really off and running. Delivering great customer experiences is a huge part of our success.
Wells Fargo Technology Banking, a little outside perspective, can create a lot of clarity. Find out more at wellsfargo.com/techbanking. Copyright 2018, Wells Fargo Banking, and all rights reserved.
So the night before Christmas, and all through the house, not a creature was stirring, but everywhere else, there are traders, builders, and surgeons and pilots and content creators. There are doers of good and gifts of charity. This time of the year, it's so much more than a bow and a tree.
Celebrate your year with the Season of Audi sales event.
Visit your Tri-State Audi dealer during the Season of Audi sales event for exclusive offers on select models, or go to AudiOffers.com for more information.
How will AI change your industry? In just 20 days, an AI powered by technology from Hewlett Packard Enterprise learned how to win at poker, beating the world's best players at the world's hardest games. Imagine what that technology can do for your business. When everything computes, what's next is extraordinary. Learn more at hpe.com.
Hey everyone, my name's Rob Cameron, and I'm the founder of Warrior Trading.
Email.
With the right education and a proven system, anyone could turn even the smallest
Email.
independent. I turned $583 into over $100
No.
in 45 days, and the account was growing. So how did I do it? I'll teach you the 3 biggest secrets in our next free lesson. Go to warriortrading.com/radio to register.
Mario Gabelli, chairman of Gabelli Asset
Do you hear
Management,
me?
talks about why he chose the Jewish Communal Fund for his
Say yes.
charitable giving.
Back in 1982,
Right, yes.
we were looking to put money to work in the charitable area. As an analyst, I examined all the details of the Jewish Communal Fund, and it fit exactly what I needed, and at the time I needed it, and it continues to do that.
For more than 40 years,
Continues to do that.
For more than 40 years, the Jewish Communal Fund has been helping busy people multiply their charitable giving. A charitable fund may be opened quickly and easily with a $5,000 gift of cash or appreciated securities. Distributions from your fund will be made to qualified charities on your timetable at your recommendation. In the meantime, the assets in your fund are invested and have the
Okay,
potential to grow tax-free.
I see it.
I like everything about it. I like the service, I like the people, and it's worked for me.
Open a JCF fund now to lock in a 2018 tax deduction. Call 212-752-8277, 212-752-8277, or visit jcfny.org. Time now for Land Rover Drive Time traffic every 15 minutes. Visit your local Tri-State area Land Rover retailer for special lease and finance offers. Land Rover above and beyond. An extremely difficult time of the roadways continues as the weather came upon the New York City area around 3:30, 4 o'clock this afternoon. And as it got bad, everyone seemed to leave early, and then you have people in multi-mile delays on 80, 78. Closures on 280, closures on the Garden State Parkway, accidents on the Garden State Parkway. No road is immune to very heavy delay right now. 90 minutes out of the Holland, 90 minutes out of the Lincoln Tunnel, closures of the George Washington Bridge. If you can stay at work for a while and not get out, stay at work for a while and give them a chance to get this cleaned up somewhat. Sports, the Rangers visit the Islanders, the Devils are in Pittsburgh. Bloomberg 11:30, 3-day weather. Tonight, well, they said rain. This is still snow, and low near 35. Friday, more showers, high 45 to 50. Saturday, sun and clouds, high 45 to 50. Sunday, partly cloudy, high near 45. In New York right now,
snow. Heavy snow in parts of the area, and it's still 32 degrees. That's why it's snow. This report brought to you by Ray Catena Jaguar. Unwrap excitement and a new Jaguar during the Unwrap at Jaguar sales event at Ray Catena Jaguar Medicine in the all-new Jaguar Marlboro on Route 9. For the best ride in and out of the city, I'm Nick Pileggi. This is Bloomberg at 11:30, bringing you global news 24 hours a day.
From the Bloomberg Newsroom in New York, I'm Bob Moon. The Associated Press will not declare winners in the races for Florida governor and senator until state officials certify the results next week. Some counties failed to complete their recounts by a deadline today. The Florida man accused of sending pipe bombs to prominent critics of President Donald Trump has pleaded not guilty to charges carrying a potential mandatory penalty of life in prison. Cesar Sayoc, who is being held without bail, entered the plea through his lawyer during his appearance in Manhattan federal court today. The judge has set a July 15, 2019 trial date. The man who gunned down John Lennon in 1980 says he feels more and more shame every year for his crime. Mark David Chapman told the parole board in August about his remorse during his 10th unsuccessful attempt to win release. The transcript of the hearing was released by New York prison officials today. Global News, 24 hours a day, on air, and at TikTok on Twitter. I'm Bob Moon.
Thank you, Bob. Shares of NVIDIA are plunging after hours, down by 15% after an earnings miss. NVIDIA Corp is the biggest maker of chips for computer graphics cards. It gave a weak sales forecast for the current quarter, showing the lingering loss of demand from the collapse of cryptocurrency mining. Ivan Feinseth is Chief Investment Officer at Tigris Financial Partners. He told us he's sticking by his buy rating.
I try not to go by quarter to quarter, even though that's what the market looks at. And I think this weakness that we're seeing in the post-market here will probably be a buying opportunity when you go out, a few quarters from now. But unfortunately, companies have been programmed by Wall Street to measure the results in 3-month increments.
Retail sales advanced 0.8% in October, the largest gain in 5 months. More from Bloomberg's Vinny Del Giudice.
Autos, fuel, and building materials led the gain. That's a sign consumer spending continues to advance following the strongest back-to-back quarterly performance in 4 years. The data also reinforce expectations the Fed will again lift interest rates to guard against inflation, most likely next month. Vinny Del Giudice, Bloomberg Radio.
As for the global market backdrop, Marvin Lowe is macro strategist at State Street. He was our guest on Daybreak Asia.
We're seeing the rest of the world struggle, and I think that kind of some of the movement around asset classes and the fact that you've had really the U.S. markets, particularly the equity markets, up until recently, separating themselves from the poor performance around the world is ultimately an interesting development with more kind of coming into the U.S.
And Daybreak Asia kicks off 29 minutes from now. Stocks higher. The Dow up 208 points, up 0.8%. S&P up 28, up 1.1%. NASDAQ up 122, up 1.7%. I'm Charlie Palatas of Bloomberg Business Flash. Bloomberg Best with Ed Baxter continues.
Broadcasting live from the Bloomberg Interactive Broker Studio in New York. Bloomberg 1130 to Washington, D.C. Bloomberg 99.1 to Boston. Bloomberg 106.1 to San Francisco. Bloomberg 960 to the country. Sirius XM Channel 119 and around the globe. The Bloomberg Business app and BloombergRadio.com. This is Bloomberg Best.
I'm Ed Baxter. We've been listening to an interview with Carlyle Group co-founder David Rubenstein and former Fed Chair Alan Greenspan. Here, Greenspan explains why he thinks he got too much credit for the performance of the U.S. economy.
So the New York Times is quoting you, and you're in your 20s, and then you ultimately became, a well-known consultant on Wall Street. And on the side, you become close to or get to know a very famous writer named Ayn Rand. Mm-hmm. And what was the appeal of her to you?
What fascinated was her heroes. And when I read her books, found her, and then Atlas Shrugged, I was caught up in that science thing, which said basically that you can't have anything rational about human emotions. And I had an argument about uncertainty with Ayn Rand, because as soon as I met her. And I kept saying that human values are irrational, they're not conceptually put together, And she then proceeded to take me apart piece by piece, showing the contradictions in my position.
But did you think she was smarter than you?
She demonstrated she was smarter than me. And we actually became very close.
You obviously built a very good reputation on Wall Street because Richard Nixon, President of the United States, asked you to serve as the head of the Council of Economic Advisors. And you actually agreed to do so, but then something happened to President Nixon, is that right?
Something I've forgotten what it was. Nixon resigned, and Ford, as vice president, became president.
Ultimately, you got to be close to President Ford, but Ford lost the election to my former boss, Jimmy Carter, in 1976, and you went back to Wall Street, is that right? You're pretty prominent now as the former head of the Council of Economic Advisors. And then ultimately, President Reagan says to you, why don't you come in and be the chairman of the Federal Reserve Board? Did you meet with Reagan before you accepted the offer?
Well, I actually had met with him quite often during his campaign. I was part of the Reagan for President campaign staff, so that I got to work with him fairly closely.
So you take the job, and you held the job for 18 or 19 years?
18 and a half.
18 and a half years. You were called by many the maestro, and you were given a lot of credibility for the U.S. economy being in such good shape. Did you ever think that people were giving you too much credit for being such a great maestro of the economy, or do you think they were pretty right in saying that?
I said, wait, it will last. You can't, popularity in Washington is basically related to what it is you do. And if you don't have 100% control of what it is that happens as a consequence of you doing, you get caught by the fluctuations up and down. My major concern, and I was acutely aware of it, is I was getting too much of the credit for what actually was going on. And I said, don't worry about it, it'll come out on the other side.
In those years, people often would say, let's photograph Alan Greenspan walking into the Federal Reserve building. If he has a big, fat set of books with him or papers, that means he's about to make a historic decision. If he has nothing very much, it means no historic decision. So was there any truth to the validity of your carrying a lot of things into the...
It was my briefcase.
Briefcase.
Depending whether my wife made me lunch.
So there really was nothing to that theory.
Well, not everybody knew that, of course.
That was Alan Greenspan speaking with David Rubenstein, host of Bloomberg's Peer-to-Peer Conversations and co-founder of the Carlyle Group. Just ahead on Bloomberg Best, they'll discuss whether Greenspan has any regrets about his time as Fed chair. This is Bloomberg.
This is a Bloomberg.
Designed with you in mind at Fairleigh Dickinson University. Here's FDU Professor of Management, Scott Wiesen.
Almost anyone can benefit from studying management because in your career, you're going to be managing a team or a division or an organization. So these skills are really transferable to every area of business that you might pursue.
Learn more about the blended Saturday MBA program at FDU Silberman College of Business. Visit fdugrad.org/radio.
Your NBC Sports Radio update starts now.
Only 3 NBA games on the slate, but a big